good start, and I'm French, I'm sorry, so difficult to pronounce, but you did it well, so thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is indeed Grégory Boucharlat. I'm the Vice President for the commercial business for Goodyear in Europe. And today, what I would like to share with you, it's a topic around sustainability. And the good news is that the tire industry, we all have the same ambition when we talk about sustainability. So I would like to thank my colleague from Michelin who talked about that, and again, reinforce the fact that it's a very important topic for all of us. So what I would like to share with you is the following: how sustainability and connectivity contribute to a more efficient and a more safe mobility environment. So few words here. Obviously, you all know that. Nothing new for you here in the room. A few years ago, the European Green Deal aims to make Europe the first European, or the first neutral continent by 2050. So that's a very important target, a very ambitious target. So we all have a role to play, and nothing will complain about that, because what we are trying to do, or what European Commission wants to do with the European Green Deal, it's protect the planet for the future generation. So obviously a very important topic for all of us. And they raised the level of ambition a few months ago, and now the ambition for Europe is to reduce the CO2 emission by at least 55% by 2030. So why I'm mentioning that? Because we have all a role to play, and obviously, if you look at the transport activity, they have a role to play. If you look at the transport, today, the transport activity, or the goods, sorry, I will restart. Today, if you look at the transport activity, more than 50% of the goods are done with a truck. So obviously, all the transport companies are under huge pressure. They have a role to play, and the transport business is estimated to be a business worth 500 billion a year. So how we can help our fleet customer to reduce the CO2 emission? So that's the reason why, as an industry, we have a role to play. So, and we know that sustainability is a very important topic for the transport industry, for the fleets. We know that because since 2 years now, we are organizing what we call the Sustainability Reality Survey. We are asking the fleet customer how they see sustainability. Are they considering sustainability as a very important topic? And we are asking them on a regular basis. We did it in 2022, we did it in 2021, so last year. And why we call it Sustainability Reality Survey? It's not only about the future, it's not only the way they see sustainability for the next 5-10 years, it's about today, how they manage sustainability on their day-to-day activity. What are the constraints? How is there a cost link to that? How they are managing that? So we have very interesting insight from our fleet customer. And what we see and what we are hearing from them, it's the first thing that we are hearing is that the bigger the fleet is, the more they are interested in sustainability topic. So that's the first insight that we got from the survey. The second one, which is also a very important one fleet out of 3, so more than 30%, are ready to do something for sustainability in order to reduce the CO2 emission in the coming years. So that's a very important point, because they clearly see that by reducing the CO2 emission, that will also help reducing the cost. So that's something that we have to consider, and the purpose, and here the role we have to play is how we can help those fleets to do that. So here, what I would like to spend time on this afternoon is the following: how, as a company, how, as an industry, Goodyear and all the industry can help the fleets in this environment. What can we do in terms of product? What can we do in terms of solution, making sure that the industry, making sure that our fleet customers will reach the target of reducing by 55% in 2030 the CO2 emission, as I've mentioned before. So I will give you some examples. The first one is if you take a fleet with 100 vehicles, as an example, and if this fleet is moving from a C-label tire to a B-label tire, so this fleet will be able to reduce the CO2 emission by almost 100 tons of CO2 per year, which is also, if you translate that into the fuel consumption by at least 40,000 liters of fuels per year, which is a huge amount of saving for the fleet. So by moving from C-label to B-label tires, this is what the fleet will get. So that's very critical, and that's the reason why at Goodyear we are continuously developing new products. We just introduced last year the Fuel Max Endurance, which is a versatile tire exactly for this reason, to help the fleet customer to reduce the CO2 emission. So that's one example. The second one is the retreading. Retreading is also a very important topic, helping the fleet to reduce the cost. If a fleet is using retread for the trucks or for the trailer, the fleet will be able to reduce by at least 10% the cost of the tire management. That's one. But the retread is also helping us and the industry to reduce the crude oil by, you can see here, almost 60%. And we also have, with our retread offer, the multiple life, so the fourth life of the tire, which is the new tire. We can regroove the tire, we can retread the tire, and we can regroove again. So that's another very good example on how we can help the fleet to reduce the cost first and to reduce the CO2 emission. Then it's not only about tires, it's also about connectivity. So you all know that a fleet manager who is under pressure, who is managing, who has a lot of things to do, they have a lot of pain points. We all know that the environment is very difficult. So they cannot afford to have downtime, they cannot afford to have a breakdown. So how, as an industry, how as a Goodyear company, we can help the fleet in making sure that they will maintain the right pressure in the truck. And we all know that if we have the right pressure in the truck, you can extend the life of the tire, you can reduce the CO2 emission, you can improve the fuel consumption. So that's critical, and how connectivity will help us and the fleet to do that. Because if we look at the inflation and the pressure, and that's the reason why I wanted to start with this one, it's critical. Today, under inflation by 1 bar can cost up to 900 € per vehicle per year. So coming back to the example I gave you before, a fleet with 100 vehicles, you can imagine the cost if it's only 1 bar lower than the normal pressure. That's one. But an underinflation tire or underinflated tire will also reduce the tire life by 30%, which is a huge amount. So connectivity will help the fleet to improve or to have the right pressure in the tire. So how we can do that? We can do that with different systems. And when we talked about sustainability, the drive over reader, or call it checkpoint, what you can see on our booth, we can help the fleet by reducing, in maintaining the pressure with the drive over reader. So how it works? With camera and lasers, we can measure the trap depth, we can measure the pressure, and we can measure the load of the vehicle. And we send immediately the information to the fleet manager, to the fleet owner, to the technician via the different system. As you can see here behind me on the screen, we have different apps, and immediately the information is sent to the fleet manager. So it's not only managing the pressure, it's also reacting on something that could happen if the vehicle is leaving the yard with the wrong pressure. So it's what we can call predictive maintenance. So with this, the fleet manager or the fleet company can immediately react and do what they have to do in order to adjust the pressure. That's one example. The second one is what we call the drive point for different type of fleets, for fleets that are coming on a more regular basis to the yard. And here we can measure the pressure. This system will not measure the trap depth, but we can measure the pressure. And exactly like for the checkpoint, we send the information directly to the fleet manager, directly to the technician, and they will, like for the checkpoint, they will immediately react. And as you can see here, we have all the position of the tires. There is a yellow alert, there is a red alert, if there is a slow leak. So this information is sent immediately or instantly to the fleet. So that's one of the ways we can help the fleet to maintain the right pressure in the tire to avoid downtime, as I said, and to avoid the breakdown, and at the end to improve the cost. So that's what we are doing at Goodyear. We are helping the fleet to be more efficient. We are helping the fleet to be more sustainable, more competitive, not only with the tires, but also with the solution. And that's the reason why, at the beginning, you remember in the introduction, I said today we will talk about connectivity, we will talk about efficiency, sustainability. That's exactly what we are doing at Goodyear with our total mobility offer. We are helping the fleet to reduce their cost through different systems, services, and solutions. But maybe you can ask the question, okay, this is what you are doing for the fleet, but what are you doing, you, Goodyear, at your level? And what we are doing here, we have our corporate responsibility framework called Better Future. And the Better Future framework is part of our DNA. We are almost a 125 years company. Next year, we will celebrate the 125 years. And since years and years, sustainability is part of our strategy and operation. And the framework you see behind me here, that's the way we are communicating our corporate responsibility with our associate, with our customer, through different pillars. The first one is obviously sustainability sourcing, sustainable sourcing, that's very important. The second one is responsible operation, the way we are moving our goods, transporting our tires from the warehouse, as an example, to the customer. So we are also considering this one. Advanced mobility, some example I already gave you just before. And obviously inspiring culture, it's about diversity, inclusion as an example. So that's the way we are considering sustainability in our company at Goodyear. I would like to thank you for your attention today, and I will pass the mic to, I think, the next speaker.
Sustainability.
Thank you.
Love it. Philip, thank you so much. I'll take that clicker. We are coming to the end of our program on the main stage, but not the end of the IAA Transportation, which will continue through Friday. I'll be here. I hope you'll join me for the rest of the program. We have one final keynote today. If you're on the live stream, don't go away. We have one more thing to share with you. We are staying on the topic of sustainability. The next keynote is from the CEO of Lufthansa Cargo, Dorothea von Boxberg. A warm welcome to the main stage.
Well, thank you very much, and very happy to be here at the IAA Transportation, so the German-English mix, as I just learned. So, coming here, I know that sustainability is, of course, a huge issue for the transportation industry, and I guess you're all aware that it's about 1/4 of the worldwide greenhouse gas emissions that stem from the transportation sector, so be it road, air, or sea. And of course, as the CEO of Lufthansa Cargo, air is the area that I'm focusing on most, and where I wanted to share our way forward. We are part of the Lufthansa Group, and the Lufthansa Group has set itself really ambitious targets for CO2 reduction. You can see it there, 100% CO2 neutrality by 2050, and halving our emissions until 2030. And although I think these targets are extremely ambitious and hard to achieve, I think it's still something where you sometimes get the reaction like, aha, yet another company that has set itself these targets. Is it real? Do you really mean it? Is it just a marketing thing, or is it greenwashing even? So what is it? Do you really mean it? And that was one of the topics that has really, well, kept us thinking. And what we've chosen for us is to work together with the Science Based Targets Initiative, because we believe that's a very credible partnership that has the UN Global Compact, but also a number of renowned NGOs in there that work together to find sector-specific paths to reduce CO2. And not only it's a sector-specific approach, but also it really looks into the immediate action. So it's not just setting targets that sometimes are very far out, but it's also coming up with very concrete plans that by the year show how you would go about it, and then of course also track whether you achieved your targets. And yeah, for me, that's the most credible commitment you can give. And If you know the airline industry a bit, you know that we are one of the hard-to-abate industries, so it is very hard to take the CO2 out of our business. And the sector-specific approach is, of course, well, on the one hand side, helpful because it distinguishes between different sectors in terms of how fast do you need to get to a net zero, depending on how difficult it is to get the CO2 out. But it also means getting the CO2 out within the sector. So compensation does not count to this approach. And if we look back to our overall targets, then the airline industry does not need to be net zero following the SBTi targets already in 2050. So as we've got this even more ambitious goal, it means that there will be some compensation in there as well, but there's also a very clear and measurable track that we want to go down on the CO2 within the sector. And I think one of the very important topics that has helped us all already during the past 50 years is really the improvement of technology. So it's really the engine manufacturers in aircraft that have contributed the most to reduction in CO2, and it's actually been a halving of the emissions if you look back the last 25 years. And I think another factor that is extremely important is transparency. So show what the footprints are, show the measures that you do, and share that with the public. And that's what we do on our website also with the Sustainable 2022 website and an update on our path. What are the measures that you can take as an airline? So the first one I mentioned, so having the most modern aircraft helps a lot. And still, the progress is going on. So right now, for example, we fly a pure 777 fleet, but there is the next 777 freighter coming out in 2027, and that will again, once more, lead to a reduction in CO2 of 12 to 15%. And so it's the single largest lever that really helps reducing that path. And I think that's also very important for airlines to be investment capable. On the freighter side, I think there are many airlines flying with very old aircraft that, of course, have a completely different footprint than aircraft that, in our case, for example, are 5 years on average of age. And being able to carry these big investments is very important for the environment. The next topic is what we call ops efficiency. And ops efficiency has a very important component in getting flights lighter, and the other one is about processes and routines. Getting flights lighter for a freighter carrier sounds strange, so it's of course not the payload of the customers, of the shippers that we want to reduce, but it's anything on top that we transport. What could that be? That could be containers, so lightweight containers or lightweight pallets. It can also be extra fuel, because sometimes pilots take more fuel on in case if, and making that very obvious with the concrete weather conditions, with the concrete route planning, what is the fuel that you need? Then as a pilot, you have the opportunity or the option to take more if you want, but then also getting the feedback with how much fuel have you landed, was it useful, and this iteration done with every flight helps getting a very good grip on how much fuel do we really need and not taking it along just for the sake of burning it in the end, really. But there's also a number of processes that help in the performance. It's all about how fast do you approach or descend, taxiing on airports, is it with one engine or with two engines? Many topics that pilots and flight ops and operations can do. It's also a call for politicians, actually, to have, in Europe, for example, the project Single European Sky. So do you fly zigzags through Europe, or do you fly directly? That is really something where we can save a lot of fuel if we can fly more direct. And what you see on the picture there is a new foil that is applied to the outer hull of the aircraft.